This morning I want to begin with the recognition of Memorial Day. Could all those who have served in our armed forces please stand?
I'm sorry, I was distracting her.
Yes.
Oh, it is
All those that served in our armed forces.
I was just
Carla also was not paying attention, but she catch the name. Some people are standing up. It must be done. Renee, and yes, sure.
I'm going to give two.
Thank you. Thank you.
Andrea.
Thank you. So we truly thank you. Thank you for your service. And I didn't say sit down, because what I'm actually going to say, would everyone please rise now? Let us take a moment of silence to remember all of those who have sacrificed their lives in the many wars and conflicts, so that we may live and live the lives that we enjoy so freely. And all of those who did return, but returned less than whole, be that physically, mentally, or emotionally, and the families of all of those who suffer as a result. Please take a moment to send prayers to honor and for their healing. And we'll just take a moment of silence now. I just ask you all to reach out to a veteran and thank them, not just this week, but at any time. There are so many people going through so many things, and you have no idea what rough times people might be going through. May peace be with them and with all of us. You may be seated. Well, I love to tell the story. The song said, "Sing it joyously," and I have to say, you all did. You all did a great job with that song. I think it was just holding the hymn books that gave us inspiration as well. And don't we all love to tell the story? Or should I say, don't we all love to tell our story? How many of us long to be heard? That is actually one of the top reasons why people go to see a therapist, is not feeling that they are listened to and heard, or that they were never listened to as a child. It can easily happen as an adult speaking to a child. Like a child who says, "I was afraid of the monsters under my bed." They're filled with horror, and their parents just respond thinking they are comforting the child, and says, "Oh, don't be so silly. Of course there's no such thing as monsters under your bed." Of course, who knows? Maybe it was spirit trying to come through like they did for the Fox sisters. Just a little spiritualist joke there. The child says, "I'm afraid to take a bath. I'm afraid of the bathtub. I'm afraid I might drown." And the parent laughingly says, "There's barely enough water in there for you to even take a bath. You certainly couldn't drown." Well, both times the parent might feel like they were being comforting or logical. We all try and be the best parents. But what the child hears is that what they think isn't really important, and how they feel is dismissed. It's negated, and so are their feelings. And in turn, that they don't matter. Fast forward to marriages. One of the famous pickup lines of men and women seeking an affair, or at least it was many years ago, my wife or husband doesn't understand me. Which then goes on further. They never listen to me. They don't talk about things or try to understand me. Not only is this a pickup line, but it's also the same thing that many therapists hear. It's back to the need to be listened and heard. And what's one of the best traits you can think of if you're close friends? For me, it's being, I just love it when I'm on the phone or on Zoom with my friends or with my friends, and it just, she listens to me. She just really gets me. She knows where I'm coming from. And my friend, she is such a good listener. She understands and cares how I feel. There's feedback, we have laughter about it. It's just a real connection. I know I'm truly understood and heard. And why is that being heard so important anyhow? It makes people feel valued and loved and cared for. It's a connection. And it makes people also, it makes them feel safe. And those things are actually essential to humans. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they are psychological needs, which are food, water, and air, safety needs, love and belonging needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. The bottom needs to be met before the higher ones can be achieved. Safety and love are actually essential for us to survive and for us to thrive. That's why being heard is so important. Actor Will Smith, I think we're all familiar with him, funny guy, uses the acronym LOVE, L-U-V. L is for listen. Truly listen to the person with your full attention. Not coming up with answers or defenses as they're talking. You're thinking of how you're going to respond. But actually leaving all that aside and truly engaging, truly listening to the person. U is for understanding. It makes people feel really important for you to understand what it is that they're saying. And he finds it useful to repeat back to them what they said so that they know that they were heard in that way. And V is for validate. The parts that you can see as true in their story and what they're telling you, then you say, yes, I agree with whatever. Or you say, I understand. Or I hear you about that. That makes a connection. And this makes a relationship stronger, and it increases a person's self-esteem. And it also raises your compassion. I was at a NONA Leadership Network meeting some months ago, and a speaker, Janola Morales, who has had quite a career, including a number of years in New York as a social worker. She had interesting stories about that. A chaplain, a deacon, and also a real estate agent. Don't know how that fit in there. But she shared the empowerment of a story and why this matters. A person's story not only gives you an insight into who they are, but their why. In understanding their why, we can communicate on a different level, and the outcome can go from good to great. She was saying that once you hear a person's story of how they got to where they are, it's hard not to connect with them and to have some better understanding for them. Examples of this are many. You think of how often you've met someone and you get one impression, and then you hear their story and you're just like, whoa, I was so wrong. And one of the examples are the homeless. They're often judged as choosing to live that life. They can help themselves if they just tried. Probably some alcoholic or drug abuser or just lazy or, whatever stories they've come up with. There are so many assumptions and judgments that people make so unfairly. But once you hear their stories, there was a person who lost his house. Fortunately, there's a lot of TV programs recently that are showing people's story to try and help America's understanding of each other, which is much needed. There was a person who, on one of these programs I saw, there was a person who lost his house and everything he owned due to medical bills. The veteran who has PTSD and isn't coping well and was asked to leave the family home, or the ones that choose to leave the family home for the family's own safety because they don't know how they might react. Then there's the runaways. those who are abused at home, and so they think they can run away to escape that abuse and that they're going to find a better life, and instead they end up finding themselves living on the street. There's the teens who have been brave enough and been honest about their sexual identity, and their families kick them out. That's it. Can't accept it. Out of here. There are many families that are homeless because they cannot find jobs. And this last year has only increased that numbers of homelessness. Annette works with some homeless, and she can give you a lot of insight and some eye-opening stories. It really starts to open your eyes and open your heart. We at this church, we collect donations of non-perishable food, hygiene items, clothes and other items, and she takes that down to Titusville and combines that with another group who serves the homeless tirelessly in Brevard County, serving hot meals, snack bags, water bottles, hygiene items, and more. And one of the couples who works there, the main couple, they just work tirelessly because they were formerly homeless themselves, and they know what it feels like. And so their hearts really can connect. They now have jobs, but they haven't forgotten how tough it is to live on the streets or in the woods. Their dedication is amazing and commendable. By the way, if you would like to donate any non-perishables or anything, please leave it in the basket. There's a basket right out in the foyer, and everything, literally everything, is so gratefully accepted. Often you will hear the stories of how homeless people say, even if the person can't, if they're on the streets and asking for donations, even if the person can't or won't give them the money, it just means so much for them to actually have people share a smile or say hello. It's the difference for them of being seen as a human or being seen or not seen as just an invisible nothing. A smile costs you nothing, but it can be worth $1 million. I don't have a solution for homelessness. I wish I did. I wish somebody did. But acknowledging a person is so important, and you can make that difference. There's a story, a true story, called A Simple Gesture by John W. Schlatter. It's in the Chicken Soup of the Soul. Probably you've all heard of that book. And the story goes like this. Mark was walking home from school one day when he noticed a boy ahead of him had tripped and dropped all of his books he was carrying, along with 2 sweaters, a baseball bat, a glove, and a small tape recorder. Mark knelt down and helped the boy pick up his scattered articles. Since they were going the same way, he helped to carry part of the burden. As they walked, Mark discovered the boy's name was Bill, and he loved video games, baseball, and history, and then he was having trouble with a lot of his other subjects, and then he'd just broken up with his girlfriend, so he wasn't in the best place. They arrived at Bill's home first, and Mark then invited him in for a Coke and to watch some television. That afternoon passed really pleasantly, and with a few laughs and some shared small talk. Then Mark went home. They continued to see each other around the school and had lunch together once in a while. They both graduated from junior high. They ended up going to the same high school, where they had brief contacts over the years. But finally, that long-awaited senior year rolled around, and it was only 3 weeks to graduation when Bill came up and asked Mark, "Did you ever wonder why I was carrying so many things home that day?" You see, I cleaned out my locker because I didn't want to leave a mess for anyone. I had stored away some of my mother's sleeping pills, and I was going to commit suicide that day. But after we spent some time together, talking and laughing, I realized that if I had killed myself, I would have missed that time, and likely so many more other times to come. You see, Mark, when you picked up those books and showed that kindness to me that day, you did a lot more than picking up my books. You saved my life. With one small gesture, you can change a person's life, for the better or for the worse. God puts us all in each other's lives to impact one another in some way. Look for the God in others, and look for the God spark within you when you are dealing with others. As the Indian parable states, you never know a person's troubles until you walk a mile in his moccasins. Which, of course, leads us back to one of our spiritual laws, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And fortunately, this is pretty much a golden rule for most religions. It truly is such a great standard to live by. It's a very easy measuring stick for when you're deciding what is the best thing to do, or what is the best action to take. You don't have to go into a long theory, it's just do unto others. In the book, The Dance, by Andrea, she talks about a woman who's desperately asking many questions about meditation. With her voice starting to rise and it seemed like she was on the verge of a panic attack, the woman asked, "Will it help me find God? If I meditate, will I have an experience of something or someone is out there listening to me? Is something really with me?" She was desperate for some sort of connection. And when I read this, I was reminded once again of the blessings that we have as spiritualists. We know there is someone or someones out there that are always listening to us. They're here to comfort and to guide us. We know, as many other religions know, that God, the divine, Spirit is all around us all of the time and is with each of us individually as well. The infinite source of love, wisdom, and so much more. We know we are loved. We know that each and every one of us has that God spark within us, a part of the divine within us. We all know that as long as we do our part to stay connected to God, that God is always there for us. But the real question is, are we always there for God? How often do we take time to sit and connect with Spirit, or invite Spirit to walk with us through our daily lives? Your life will have so much more flow when you connect to that divine and that wisdom that is God's Spirit. And speaking of being seen and heard, well, we certainly know that we are seen and heard by our deceased loved ones. When we get messages from our family and friends that have passed to the other side, so often they will give us messages of how they've been with us, whether they were riding in the car with us, whether they were with us at home, how they try and connect with us through a certain smell. We know that they are with us because they tell us about them being with us. And these are things that you wouldn't know otherwise, so we know that Spirit is coming through and is with us. And they also come through to share some of their best advice with us, and they always share a message of love for us, because they truly still love us so. We know we are seen and heard by those on the other side, even if we're not so sure we're listened to and heard by people here on earth. And while we are still here on this beautiful earth, let us do our best to love, L-U-V, love each other. Give each other the gifts of listening, understanding, and validating. Take that extra time to make people realize that they matter. Their feelings are safe in your company. See how much your relationships improve, and watch other people's self-esteem increase. And practice the spiritual law of healing. As stated in The River of Life by Reverend Marilyn Autry, the law of healing is the channeling of positive, powerful energy radiating from the source into the mind of one that is diseased, that is lacking in ease. Let us channel the positive, the powerful energy from the divine to all of those in need of upliftment, and let us be free with sharing smiles and words of encouragement wherever we can. Not only will you be lifting someone else up, but you will also be amazed at how much better you feel. It makes your God spark shine more when you radiate it out to others. It just is a continual energizer. So now, your message, your journey is to go out and acknowledge people and share your smiles.